Namaste. Welcome back, everybody, to our fifth session of Soundarya Lahari. And this will be our last session, last introductory session before we get into the slokas. Hope everybody had a wonderful Diwali. We will start with a short meditation and prayers. So let's, as usual, sit tall with head, neck, and trunk in a straight line. Invite you to close your eyes. Focus your attention to the middle of your heart. Feel the chest moving up when you're inhaling, and it's going down while exhaling. Pay attention to the rise and fall of your chest. Be in sync with that moment. Your awareness is in sync with that completely. Let's take 3 deep breaths. Inhale deep. Exhale completely. Inhale deep. Exhale and relax. One more time, deep inhalation and exhalation. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Vakratundha Mahakaya Suryakotis Samaprabha Nirvikhnam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Sarvamangala Mangalye Shive Sarvarthasadhike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Shri Matre Namah. Welcome back. Today's session, we will talk about Adi Shankaracharya. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagaval Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Loka Shankaram, beautiful word to explain what Shankaracharya was to us. He brought that auspiciousness, Shankara, Mangalam, to Sanatana Dharma. The contributions that Shankara gave to Sanatana Dharma during his phenomenal 32 years that he was physically present with us, or physically present in the Bharatam, and the contribution that he continued to give us. We are sitting here, how many years later? We are sitting here just talking about him. So the contribution that he gave, we just cannot realize in its full potential, let alone speak about it, right? But still, if I try, I can put them into a few buckets, like even though we cannot do that. He contributed in so many different areas with such profound and deeper level, like each thing that he has contributed to that level, that again, it is not easy to place them in buckets, like I said. Yet if I try, let's take that first category, Bhāṣyam, the commentary of many of the existing granthas of Sanatana literature that Shankaracharya wrote Bhāṣyam of, that those literature came into its full meaning, its full essence because of Bhagavad Pada. And many of you are attending Rajesh ji's Bhagavad Gita class. If you just simply read that those verses, we may not be understanding that full meaning, but when Rajesh ji is actually referring Shankara Bhāṣyam of Bhagavad Gita, and that's where we are understanding that full meaning. Even when we read the Shankara Bhāṣyam directly, it is not easy to understand, but thank God we have Rajesh ji for that. That is the first category, where the Shankaracharya wrote the Bhāṣyam to many of the Sanatana Dharma granthas. Its major ones are the Prasthanatrayam, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. And not only those Prasthanatraya, Bhagavad Pada also wrote Bhāṣyam to Vishnu Sahasranamam, Lalita Trishadi, and Malakiyam. It's an interesting thing about Hastamalakiyam. Hastamalaka is a disciple of Adi Shankaracharya. He wrote that book, and Shankaracharya did Bhāṣyam or commentary to his disciples' book. The Guru writes commentary to his disciples' book. So that was interesting. Shankaracharya did many Prakaraṇa Granthas. Prakaraṇa Granthas are not related to a specific book, but it is to explain, those books explain the principles of many of our Shastras. So Vedantas, things like that. So these Prakaraṇa Granthas explain what is in them. So it may not be, we cannot pinpoint this is the particular book, but Drik Drishya Viveka is an example of Prakarana Grantha. Now, Shankaracharya's major, there are so many. So some that if I can name here, Viveka Chudamani, Atma Bodha, which also Rajesh took a class on, Tattva Bodha, and one of the tantric one, Prapancha Saram. All these things are also contributions of Shankaracharya. So the first category of like different Bhāṣyams, commentaries, and Prakarana Granthas. The second, if we were to put that is contribution to Sanatana Dharma, is that Shankaracharya was living during a time where Sanatana Dharma itself was losing its focus and essence, where people were kind of fighting over religions, sectarians. When I say religion, it is the subunit within the Hinduism, like say Shakti and Vaishnavam. So it was during that time when Buddhism was also in rise. People were not understanding what is it meant by Sanatana Dharma. That essence was getting lost. So Shankaracharya, what he did is that he reinforced and reorganized the religions and reminded everybody that the common essence that is carrying throughout these different subunits of Hinduism. And at the same time, he reinforced that importance of one to follow the Swadharma. So everybody follow your own, but at the same time respecting the other system and also understanding the commonality between them. So that's called Anusandhanam. It was not an easy task. Like he traveled throughout the country, did the debate, and all that thing finally helped to integrate these different religions. So one of the things that Shankaracharya introduced is called Panchayatana Puja, integrating 6 different religions, which is Shaktam, about Shakti, Shaivam, Shiva, Ganapatyam, Ganapati, Kaumaram of Subramanian, then Vaishnavam, Vishnu, and Sauram, it's a Surya. And what he did is that I remember some of you actually know Bhuvaнаji. Bhuvaнаji is when we went to Bhuvaнаji's home that she was showing me how her husband was doing the Panchayatana Puja. So the way that it is done is that your Ishta Devata is at the middle and the remaining 5 of the Vigrahas will be around it. It's not just that you're seeing that Sagunan in one, but showing that like everything is Sagunan, but everything's essence finally is the Nirguna Parabrahman, the Shiva or the Shuddha Brahman that we talked about. So he's using that particular Vidhanam, the Panchayatana Vidhanam. So he was able to bring that element to people, and those Vidhanam is still done. It's an example that I saw in Bhuvaнаji's home. Shankaracharya didn't separate like Vedanta, Tantra as like a 2 different kind of schools. He took it as a 2 ways to realize the exact same truth. And he has disciples from both Vedantic place and Tantric place. So he wanted people, wherever they are, he wanted to take them and make them realize God, realize that Chaitanya. That was his Karunya. So Karunalayam. He was said to be a Prasthanam or an Alayam, shelter of all these Shruti, Smriti, Puranam. So that's kind of the contribution to about the religion. He also established so many rituals along with this Panchayatana Puja. He traveled along the length and breadth of India. Remember, only 32 years, and he started much younger age, and then became a sannyasi. You know the stories. I'm not going into the deeper into the well-known stories. On a personal note, I want to say that I was fortunate enough to visit four major places that's associated with Shankara. The one in Kedarnath, where Samadhi of Shankaracharya is. The second is the Joshi Mutt, the Jyotir Matham, that one of the four Matham that Shankara has established. The third is Kaladi, where Shankaracharya grew up. And the fourth, also in Kerala, Ernakulam, a place called Piravam, his maternal home, supposed to have born there. That place, it's an amazing place. If you ever get a chance, go there. There is a particular room where we can see the idol of Shankaracharya and Shiva as well. The vibration in that room is amazing. The silence, its silence speak to you. So if you ever get a chance, go to this place and all the places related to Shankaracharya. We talked about the Matham, Jyotir Matham. So the other three Matham that he established are in the four corners of India: the Sringeri Sharada Peetham, Puri Govardhana Peetham, Dwarka Kalika Peetham, and we talked about Badrinath, the Joshi Mutt. Shankaracharya also established a Deshanami sannyasi system. One quick anecdote: when I visited Joshi Mutt, it was a group from Kerala. We spoke to locals. When they realized that we are from Kerala, they actually fell on our feet. Then they said, "Okay, you are coming from the same land as Shankara, so you are so fortunate." And that is kind of the reverence that they have to Shankara. So just to show that how much they revere Shankara, you probably may not see that level in Kerala Kaladi, but just want to tell you that how in Jyotirmat and also the Uttarakhand, the people are seeing Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara, not only the four mutt, he has reconsecrated vigrahas in many temples, Badrinath, Rameshwaram, Pashupatinath, to some examples. And he also established Sri Chakram, like we talked about Sri Yantram in last session. So he established many of that as well across the length and breadth of India. He established rituals that also helped integrate India. For example, Badrinath has a priest. Badrinath is all the way on the north of India. Like if you just walk through, you will reach China. That's how close the temple is from the border. And that temple has a priest is from Kerala. Payanur Kannur, that is where that priest is from. So he's called the Ravalji. We met Ravalji while we visited Badrinath. So it's actually establishing that connection between it's to remove that border between North India, South India, and all. So during that time ago that he has established this kind of with the vision that Shankaracharya has established all these four Sanatana Dharma. Amazing, amazing. We talked about the Bhāṣyams, the Prakaraṇa Granthas, and the reinforcement using the Panchayatana Puja, connecting all different religions, all different sectarians, and then the Mathas and Dashanami, all that we talked about. But my heart is actually more at a completely different category of his contribution. But I also feel that Bhagavad Padar's heart is also at his hymns and devotional sutis and stotras to Devis and Devatas. There's not even a single Devata that Shankara hasn't written a stuti of. So many of them, like we can't list it out. Sri Ganesha Pancharatnam, Devi Bhujangam, Shivananda Lahari, Soundarya Lahari, Uma Maheshwara Stotram, Bhaja Govindam, Vishnu Bhujangam. Talk about so many of them. And that is where Shankaracharya was also establishing the Advaita. So Saguna Brahmam, you can pray any of these devatas, but the ultimate is that Shuddha Chaitanyam, which is Nirguna, Nirakara. But the way that it's not something that we can easily understand. So the way that he has developed that connection between these Devi Devata are something that we can emulate. And nobody understood Shakti the way that Shankara did. There are so many of the stories of his close relationship with many devatas in all different forms, Shakti specifically, especially for us, the Soundarya Lahari sadhakas. I think those will be more useful and helpful than any other stories. So I'm going to indulge us in a little bit of these stories. But before we get deeper into these stories, I want to clarify one thing. Stories are stories. Sometimes it has absolutely no logic, but all stories have one thing in common. They all have a message in it, right? I can tell you a story of a story. In second grade or third grade, I learned a story of this crow that is sitting on top of this mud pot. Crow is very thirsty and wanted to drink water, but the mud pot has a narrow top and the water is all the way in the bottom. He couldn't drink it. The crow couldn't drink it. And then what crow did is that he took the stones from the side and then started putting one by one. And finally, the water rise, and then the crow drank the water. So that's the simple story. When it is in the form of stories, it stuck with us. Like then later at the in ninth grade or 10th grade, when we learned the Archimedes principle, the teacher told, "Do you remember the story when this about the crow and the mud pot and the stone in the water?" And they said, "Yeah, now it makes sense, right?" So now what we don't do is that for Archimedes principle to learn and for the exam that we talk about the density, the buoyancy factor, the volume, and all that thing that you will talk about. But then you will not apply that same thing to the crow and the pot. You will not say what kind of stones that did he throw, whether he stand on the left side or the right side. Like you won't analyze the stories similar way that these stories they may not have logic. The same thing true for all these Puranic stories also. They don't have they not always. Sometimes they have logic, but majority of the time they will have no logic, but all of them those stories have a message in it. So it's important for us to take the message and not to get into the logic part of it. So here also about Bhagavad Pada, you might have heard so many stories, and then people kind of start fighting like, is it true? How can it be true? And all that kind of intellectual conversation, we don't want to get into it. Where we want to get into is that what is the intention behind these stories, right? How did Bhagavad Pada saw the Devi? How is his bhava approaching the Devi? So he's using that bhava to reach to that even the higher Chaitanya. He knows unless he established that relationship with that Devi, that is not possible. So that's what he's trying to tell. Like he's doing that by example so that we follow Bhagavad Pada. So we can emulate him so that we can also understand the essence behind the Saguna Brahman. So, so take it the stories in that sense, all of them, not by slicing and dicing whether it really happened. How can logically the amla will fall? All that thing. Let's not get into those, right? So take it in the sense of like how you want to develop that bhavam towards the Devi and to reach to that final destination of knowing us, knowing that like we are that final Chaitanyam, Nirgana Nirakara Chaitanyam. Let's now get into that story of this 9-year-old boy. He goes for bhiksha. That's what the sannyasis do. They go for bhiksha, house by house. So this 9-year-old boy, or even younger, goes to the house and asks for Bhavadi Bhiksham Dehi, and the lady comes out, and she has nothing to give to baby Shankara, but there is one dried amla, the gooseberry. That's all what she had. And she was feeling so bad in giving that, but not giving is also a sin. So she finally gave baby Shankara that amla. And he was so moved, Shankaracharya was so moved by this act. He immediately started saying a totram to Mahalakshmi. And that is Kanagadhara Stotram. Angam Hare Pulagabhushanam Asrayanti. That's how it starts. And he goes on and on and on. And finally, Lakshmi shows up. Lakshmi asks him, "Okay, Shankara, what do you want me to do?" And he asked for the sampada to this lady. And Lakshmi said, "But she doesn't deserve that sampada. Why would I give sampada to her? She hasn't done anything." So Shankara said, "She just gave me that amla, she gave me picture, and that karunyam that Shankara has shown made Lakshmi to put a downpour of the golden amla, golden gooseberry. Shankara's stotram made Lakshmi to appear, but Shankara's karunyam made Lakshmi to do the downpour of golden amla. This is showing that karunyam that Shankara had to people. And other one that we can learn from the Kanagadhara Stotram is that it's not just the stuti of a devada that a 9-year-old boy wrote. It is actually a sense from Atharva Veda itself. Remember, it's such a at a young age he was so well versed with the Vedas, and it is from Lakshmi Hridayam of Atharva Veda is actually the content of the Kanagadhara Stotram. Now, during that point in time when Shankara was, Vedas were in the hand of a small set of people. And in order to get that, you needed to be initiated. Not everybody had access to this mantra and its benefit. So what Shankara did is that he wanted that benefit to everybody, all people. Right. And what he did is that he converted them into stotra. So the same content, the same mantra, but in a disguised form were in those stutis. So people who were chanting those stutis will get the exact same benefit as chanting the Atharva Veda or whichever Veda that is. So even the Soundarya Lahari has so much mantra that is kind of built in that we will not know that we are actually chanting mantra. So that is another contribution by Shankaracharya. So he has those made it accessible to everybody because his karunyam was that everybody needs to have access. Everybody needs to have sampada of not only from a bhautika perspective, but also the sampada of the moksham as well. So that is what that particular story is about. Similarity of Shankaracharya's different stutis, stotra. So this one particular one, the Kanakadhara Stotram, which he wrote it as a child, and then the Soundarya Lahari, which he was written at his prime age. One starts with Angam Hare, the other starts with Shiva Shakti Ayukto. So both of them has that same, here Angam Hare is Hari's Angam, which is Lakshmi. So it starts with that Shiva Shakti union or the Vishnu Lakshmi union. So he knew about that Advaitam even at that young age. So it's not that as he grow, like he kind of matured into his kritis, but that maturity was there even to that young Shankara. And we learned one of the lines from Soundarya Lahari at the beginning, Gira Mahur Devim Druhina Grihini Agamavido, where he was saying that you are not just Lakshmi, Parvati, or Saraswati, you are that Turiya Kapitvam, Duradigama Nisima Mahima. So that exact same meaning line you can also see in Kanagadhara Stotram. Garudutvaja Sundaredi, Shakam Peredi, Shishekharedi, Vallabhedi. Gira Devi is actually the Saraswati, Garudutvaja Sundari is Lakshmi, Shishekara Vallabhedi is Parvati. And also talking about you are not just these three, but the one that beyond that. So that same meaning is bringing in these two stotras. So it is showing that whether he was at the young age or at the prime age, he had that same understanding of Advaita in that same level. Then the story about the Madrika Panchakam, you know that during the last time of his mother, he wrote the Madrika Panchakam, which is such a moving line about mother. And when it came to giving the last rite to his mother, he did himself. No sannyasi would do that. As sannyasis are usually leave their purvashramam and they won't do anything of these rituals for their parents or anyone. But Shankaracharya know what exactly he's doing. So he performed that. His heart is not at making anything intellectual or following the path, but his heart is like doing the right thing. So that is where that Shankara's Mahatmyam comes out. We talked about that pujaris from Kashi Vishwanath temple who came to Guruvayurappan temple here and told about Devi Shakti, where he's saying that Shiva, you are wearing all these amangala things. Everything is amangalam about Shiva. He's having the bhasmam from the cremation ground. He's wearing those sarpamala. Everything about Shiva is amangalam, but Devi, still he became Jagadishwara, how did he became? Just because that Devi, your panigraha, just because that you're holding his hand in marriage, that's why he became Jagadisha. So these are kind of showing that his intimate connection with the Devi, and we will come with many slokas later where that close relationship Shankaracharya with Devi. So I'm not going detail into those. So that's where I want to kind of bring that light on Shankara's, where his heart is that he understood Shakti, and he's not looking at the Shakti as a rupam. Remember that bhava, when the bhava becomes so tanmayi bhavam, some cases he's making fun of her. That we will talk about many slokas that is upcoming in Soundarya Lahari, all different bhavas that he's establishing towards that. And that is most important. Like, you need to have that connection to understand the Chaitanyam behind it. It's not that the Shakti is actually a Devi with the Rupam. It's not. But for us to make that intimate connection, a Rupam is needed. We are reinforcing that value in that Rupam is what all is about. And nobody other than Shankara that can explain to us in the form of the verses, in the form of stories that we hear about Shankara. So it's such an amazing life that Shankara led in 32 years, not just 32 years, but beyond that. Like, even Shankara continued to live among us. With that, I want to pause and see, Rajesh, if we can add some before we do sadhana.
Thank you, Gina. That was an excellent summary. I think you covered everything. The only thing I just wanted to highlight is it's humanly impossible for us to think about Shankaracharya and Vyasa. These are the two great people who saved Sanatana Dharma. When I say saved Sanatana Dharma, he was not trying to save a religion. He was trying to establish a way of life. Because at the time of Shankara, as Jina said, it was completely confusing. Like Buddhism was prevalent, but not in its purest form. Because initially Buddhism started with all positive intent. It was really doing good, because the Buddhism got originated because of the wrong practices in Sanatana Dharma. So what happened was people were blindly following Vedas, and everything was attributed to rituals. At that time, Buddha came, criticized these rituals. He tried to create an intellectual path. And then soon after Buddha, after generations and generation, there also this decay happened. And as a result, what happened was people were doing dry intellectualism. So that is the time Shankara came into being. And single-handedly, he approached those entire intellectuals through the intellectual path. At the very same time, he had to deal with the ritualist also. For example, you might have heard the story of Mandana Mishra, who was challenging Shankaracharya. Shankara was able to debate and defeat him, and he became Sureshwaracharya, his disciple. And that was the glory of Shankaracharya. Again, at a first time he wrote, the first commentary was Vishnu Sahasranama, which was at the age of 9, it is said. And when he completed all his commentaries of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, he was only 17. Can we imagine that? And by the time he was 32, he passed away. In that life, he traveled throughout India a couple of times. And another thing just wanted to highlight on the life of Shankaracharya is he was not blindly following anything. He understood and followed. Wherever he had to challenge, he used to challenge. And he challenged some of these conventional customs in such a way that like he was just destroyed those wrong practices. So it's not that he didn't have to face challenge. Then also these like these fanatics and fundamentalists, they tried to oppose him. At the time of his mother passing, no local priest participated. They refused to do their final rites. So that is what prompted, that is one of the reasons why Shankara, even though he was a sannyasi, he was doing that by himself. Nobody participated, but the divine presence was always there. That is another point. And another glory of Shankaracharya is like it's meaning every human being will, meaning every being is supposed to make mistake. If you make a mistake, he always used to accept it. There was a story, Manisha Panchakam, because a Chandala was like coming to Shankara when he was walking through the Kashi. Without knowing, he said like gacha gacha. The Chandala stopped and he asked certain questions. He said, like, you are an Advaitin. You think that your Atma is divine and my Atma is divine. Everything is one. So why you are asking me to move away? And immediately he prostrated in front of that Chandala and composed a brilliant shloka, Panchakam, 5 shlokas called Manisha Panchakam. So that's a great glory of Shankaracharya. And then the third thing is that I would say one of the greatest contributions Shankaracharya did was he systematized and rationalized the whole different conflicting traditions. As Jina was saying, like there were Shaivites and Vaishnavites and like the different sets fighting each other, and their rituals was not aligning, their metaphysical model were not aligning, their vision was not common, everybody was just sitting in their isolated domain. Shankara rationalized it and he showed that all these practices are good but with a higher goal. That is another goal of Shankaracharya. So it's like we can sit and talk, but we all are sitting and studying this because of Shankaracharya. For example, last point I wanted to mention is we all are studying Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is considered as very popular nowadays in the modern world. A scripture which has maximum number of commentaries is Bhagavad Gita. So that popular is the scripture of Bhagavad Gita. It is, the popularity is going up everywhere. But nobody would have recognized this brilliant work without Shankaracharya. If you really look at the history of Bhagavad Gita, up until Shankaracharya started writing a commentary, Bhagavad Gita was not popular at all. So it was Shankaracharya who pulled this brilliant work out of Mahabharata and wrote an independent commentary. And after that, only Bhagavad Gita became popular. Because otherwise, in 100,000 shlokas of Mahabharata, nobody would have even recognized Bhagavad Gita. So this is what it is. So he was pure Advaitin, he was a Shakteya, he was a Vaishnavite. For Vaishnavites, he is a Vaishnava, meaning you can see that he has written so many stotras about Vishnu, so many stotras about Shiva. So this is the glory of Shankaracharya. Everybody can relate to him, and he unified everything. And that's what glory to Shankara. Okay, Jin.
Thank you, Rajesh. Now, I want to take a few minutes to kind of let's go deeper into sadhana. I know we are not doing any new slokas because we will be starting a new sloka next week, which is the first sloka, Shiva Shakti Yuga. I'm so excited about it. There are multiple ways to meditate, but let's talk about major two. One, we talked about in the previous classes where you are meditating on the mantra, the vibrations that the mantra is bringing into your body. So that is one way to focus completely. You're saying Om Namah Shivaya, you're focusing what are the vibrations that these individual letters are, aksharams are bringing. So that's one way. The second is different dhyana slokams. When we are talking about this Saguna Devata, how we can actually visualize that Devata. We talked about Vigraham, right? Last time when we talked about there are so many different types of Vigrahams, especially the solid Vigraham that we see at temple. But then the most important one is the Vigraham that is made of our own mind. So in our mind, we can make Vigraham. It's also known as kind of visualizing the Devata in your mind. All these slokas comes, you can visualize some of them. If it is about Devi or Devata, whichever Devata, you can visualize those by picture in your mind. And that's one thing that we will do the practice round today that can be helped for your own sadhana moving forward as we go into more slokas. So we'll pick one of the very well-known sloka so that it is familiar with everybody, at least majority of you, and then we will visualize that. So before visualizing, let's talk about the meaning so that when you close your eyes, that we can do a proper visualization. And this is a Dhyana Slokam of Lalita Sahasranama. You might have heard at least once, right? Or you are chanting on a regular basis. It's Sindhuraruna Vigraham. So that's the one we will pick up. So let's go through the meaning and then we will do a quick visualization as part of our sadhana today. Let me chant first and then we go. Sindhuraruna Trinayanam Manikya Taranayaka Shekharam Smitamukhi Apina Vakshoruham Panibhyam Alipurna Ratna Chashakam Raktolpalam Bhipratim Saumyam Ratna Khadasta Ratta Charanam Dhyayet Param Ambikam. Sindhuraruna Vigraham. So the Vigraham is of what color? Sindhura Aruna. Sindhuram is the Sindhuram. You know the Sindhuram that women put on the forehead. Arunam is red. Trinayanam, three eyes. Manikya Maulispurat. So in her crown there is Manikyam. Then Tara Nayaka Shekharam. Tara Nayakan is, Tara is Nakshatram, the stars. The chief of stars is the moon. So Tara Nayaka Shekharam. So on her head, there is moon. Smita Mukhi, Smita is smiling, smiling face. Apina Vakshoraham. Her bosoms are full. So one thing about the breast of Devis that we need to be very focusing on here. Usually in other literature, it is used as an erotic symbol. But here, when we are talking about Devi Vakshas is full, it actually means that it is ready to nourish the entire world. So here there is that Jagan Mada concept. The moment that the word you can see that in many verses that is upcoming, right? So here is saying that she's the one that nourishes entire prapancham. So that is the symbol. By the way, Sanatana Dharma doesn't shy away from eroticism in any matter, right? We have a Maharshi writing Kama Sutra. Valsyayana Maharshi wrote Kama Sutra. But when we hear this in the context of many of this Jaganmada Shakti, that actually means she is the Mata, the one that is providing, the nurturing the entire universe. So that is kind of the context that we have to take. Then Panipyam in her hand, Alipurna Ratna Chashagam. Alipurna is honey-filled. Chashagam is a pot. Raktolpalam Bhipratim. Ulpalam is lotus. In the other hand, has a red color lotus. Saumya, beautiful. Ratna Khadasta Ratta Charanam. Her legs is on the top of a pedestal that's made of Ratnam. And Dhyayet Paramambika. We are doing the Dhyanam to that Paramambika. So a lot of things. It's very visual. So we'll do that in a Dhyanam. So if you close your eyes, now bring your mind into like a pure white canvas, nothing on your mind. Like erase everything in your mind. And then we are slowly etching one by one this rupam of Devi. Sindhuraruna Vigraham, Trinayanam, three eyes, Manikya Maulispurat. Her crown has Manikyam. Taranayaka Shekaram. The crown also has the moon. Smitamukhi, she has a beautiful smile. Just bring that in your canvas of mind. Apina Vakshoroham, she is ready to nourish the world. Panibhyam, Alipurna Ratna Chashakam. In one hand, there is a pot that is filled with Ali. Raktolpalam Bhipratim. In the other hand, she has that beautiful red lotus flower. Saumyam Ratna Khadasta Ratta Charanam. Beautiful as she is. She's sitting, her legs are in a pedestal made of Ratnam. And Dhyayet Param Ambikam. We are doing the Dhyanam to that Ambikam. Just sit with that Rupam for a minute. When you're doing the dhyanam of the devata, you're doing just the dhyanam. That rupam is the only thing that you're focusing on. But when you're doing the mantram, you're focusing only on the sound, the vibrations of that sound. So it's two different things. Dhyanam is one form. Rupam, the vigraham is devata, mantram is also devata. But when we do the meditation, for mantra, you focus on the sound vibration. For the dhyanam, you focus on that rupam. With that, I want to summarize and open for questions. So we talked about Shankara and his contributions at so many different levels to Sanatana Dharma as a Bhāṣyam, as a Prakaraṇa Grantha, bringing all the religion together. His travel to the country across in the Bharatavarsam, about the Matham that he has established, the Sri Chakram, the Vigrahas, reconsecrating many temples. And we talked about the stutis and the stotras of so many devatas that Shankara has given. So Shankara's glory will continue to live. And it's the best example is that we're sitting here and talking about Adi Shankaracharya. Bhagavad Padas, each slokam, each kriti and each slokam is so with meaning that we can sit with one slokam for years, actually. So this particular one, Sindurarana Vigraham, that Rupam, Shankaracharya had that darshanam at Kanchi Kamakshi temple at Tamil Nadu, and that is where he wrote this particular one. This is not from Soundarya Lahari, but I want to give that example of how to do the dhyana slokam and how to do the dhyanam of Rupa Dhyanam of Devata. So that will help you as we go into more slokas. With that, may Jagadambika's blessings be with you all, and we will end the session here.